Have you ever looked someone in the eyes, heard all the right words, but still felt something was off? Like a song that sounds fine, but one note keeps echoing wrong. They smiled, they explained, they gave you logic, charm, even a little vulnerability. But deep down, something didn't sit right. Not because they made a mistake, but because they were too perfect, too polished. And the truth is, real people don't sound like that. Lies wear makeup. Truth doesn't need it. A lie is like a still lake covered in fog. It looks calm. But throw a stone and suddenly everything ripples, shadows move beneath the surface, or picture a house built on sand. It stands tall, but the moment pressure hits, it cracks. That's what silence does. It's the pressure. It reveals what words try to hide. People can rehearse their stories, but the body doesn't lie. Watch their hands. Listen to their pauses. Feel their energy. Silence doesn't confuse. It clarifies. So the question is, how do you see the truth without accusing, chasing, or doubting yourself? Stay with me, because the answer isn't loud. It's silent. And by the end of this, you'll never hear lies the same way again. Number 1, loose threads always unravel. Watch closely. It starts small. A sentence that doesn't quite match what they said last week. A tiny detail that shifts. A time that suddenly changes. You notice it. Your mind catches it like a splinter, sharp and annoying, but easy to ignore. You want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But you're not. What you're seeing is the first thread coming loose. And if you pull it gently, the whole story begins to fall apart. Here's what most people don't realize. Telling the truth is easy. You don't need to rehearse something that actually happened. The truth lives in your bones. It flows without effort. But lying? Lying is hard work. It's like building a house out of paper in the middle of a storm. The more they talk, the more holes they have to patch. Every new detail is a potential leak. That's where you start to see the cracks. Ask them the same question twice, in different ways, and suddenly the foundation shakes. One version has a friend helping. The next version, they were completely alone. One day they're confident. The next day, I'm not sure. That's not memory loss. That's mental gymnastics done by someone trying to hold up a collapsing lie. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The truth doesn't flinch under pressure. It doesn't shift with time. It doesn't need a backup plan. Lies, on the other hand, demand energy. They require maintenance. And the more pressure you apply, calmly, silently, the more they begin to sweat. Imagine trying to juggle while walking on a tightrope. That's what lying feels like. They're trying to remember what they told you last time while also trying to look calm. But even the best liars can't keep it perfect. Because truth is consistent. Lies are a moving target. Now maybe you're wondering, what if I'm wrong? What if they just made a mistake? That's fair. Not every inconsistency is a lie, but a pattern of them. That's not an accident. That's a signal. When their story bends every time you touch it, it was never solid to begin with. I knew someone once, we'll call him Eric, who worked with a guy that always seemed just a little too smooth. One week, he claimed he finished a big assignment ahead of schedule. Sounded impressive. But by the third time he told the story, it had changed. First, he did it alone. Then, someone helped. Then, he couldn't remember who exactly. Eventually, the truth came out. He hadn't done it at all. Just another paper house in a storm. So next time you feel that itch in your gut, don't dismiss it. Watch closely, stay quiet, ask gently, The truth doesn't panic, but lies always tremble. And when you learn to see the tremble, you never see people the same way again. Number 2, the eyes can't lie, but liars try to make them. They say the eyes are the window to the soul, but what if the person behind the glass is trying to pull the curtains shut? That's the strange thing about liars. Their mouths may move with confidence, but their eyes often can't keep up. One moment, they avoid your gaze like it burns. The next, they're staring holes through you, as if eye contact alone can sell the lie. Either way, it feels off. And that feeling, that's your signal. When someone tells the truth, their eyes move naturally. Sometimes they look away to think. Sometimes they hold your gaze. It flows like a river. But lies freeze that river. They force the current. A guilty person often avoids eye contact, not because they're weak, but because they don't want to be seen. There's something heavy behind the eyes, and liars feel it. So they look away, down, to the side, anywhere but at the person they're deceiving. But here's where it gets tricky. Some liars go the opposite direction. They overcorrect. They lock eyes like they're trying to hypnotize you. It's not honesty, it's strategy. They think, if I stare long enough, you'll believe me. But it doesn't feel real. It feels staged, forced, like they're playing a role, not having a conversation. You might ask, but what if they just have weird eye contact habits? That's a fair question. Some people are shy, some are intense. But the key isn't just the eyes, it's the eyes plus the tension in their body. Do they fidget while looking away? Do they freeze while staring too hard? Truth doesn't try to manage your perception. Lies do. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." A person's gaze carries the shade of what they're thinking. If they're calm and truthful, it shows. If they're hiding something, the unease leaks through. The body speaks louder than the mouth when guilt is in the room. I remember someone, a woman I know named Rachel, who once dealt with both sides of this spectrum. One co-worker, caught missing a deadline, couldn't keep his eyes on her for more than a second. He looked at the floor, shifted in his seat, scratched his arm. His guilt leaked out through every nervous twitch. But another man, in a different situation, did the complete opposite. He stared at her like a statue. No blinking, no softening, just cold, calculated eye contact. His words were polished, but his gaze screamed, "Believe me." And that desperation, that was the giveaway. Because honest people don't need to convince you, they just tell you. Liars perform. So next time someone's eyes make you pause, don't explain it away. Watch, feel, listen. If the stare feels too stiff or the gaze disappears too often, pay attention. Real eyes don't hide, and fake ones can't hold the truth for long. When the mouth lies, the body whispers the truth, but the eyes often shout it. Number 3, the body leaks what the mouth tries to hide. You can dress a lie in perfect words, but the body always forgets the script. That's the thing about deception. It's not just about what people say, it's about what their body accidentally gives away while they're trying to look convincing. A shaky hand, a stiff posture, a twitch of the mouth. These are the cracks in the mask, and if you know where to look, you'll see the truth peeking through. Words can be rehearsed, stories can be memorized, but body language, that's a different story. The body speaks in real time, under pressure, and when someone lies, their nervous system feels the tension. The brain is juggling too much. Keep the story straight, don't mess up the timeline, act natural. But the body can't keep up with all that control. It starts leaking stress, through fidgeting, through blinking, through a sudden stiffness that doesn't match the situation. You might ask, but don't nervous people fidget too? Sure, but here's the difference. Truthful people may be anxious, but their movements are still human, still natural. Liars often overcompensate. They freeze, thinking, if I sit perfectly still, I'll look more honest. Or they overperform, rubbing their hands together, tapping their fingers, touching their face too much, trying to keep their anxiety from bubbling over. The key is to observe contrast. Look at how someone normally behaves when they're relaxed. That's your baseline. If their body suddenly changes, more blinking, stiff shoulders, dry swallows, that's your cue. Not just one small twitch, but a pattern, a cluster of odd behaviors. Stoicism teaches us to notice without judgment. As Epictetus said, a man's character is not judged by his words, but by his actions. The body is action, and action reveals the truth. I remember a guy, Jake, who once got caught lying at work. He was accused of breaking a team agreement. When questioned, his voice was calm, too calm. He denied everything and even managed to sound offended. But while his lips were saying, "I didn't do it," his body was having a panic attack. He tapped his foot so fast it shook the table, rubbed his hands like he was washing off guilt, blinking like his eyes wanted to shut out the question. And when someone hit a key point, he scratched his neck hard, like he was physically itching from the pressure. That was it. His mouth stayed in control, but his body screamed what he didn't want to admit. So, how do you catch this? Start by watching. Not what they say, but how they say it. Are their movements smooth or robotic? Do their eyes match their words? Do they freeze when the truth touches too close? The body is the stage where truth plays out, even when the script is fake. Because in the end, words are cheap. But the body pays a price for every lie it carries. And if someone's body betrays them while they speak, believe it. Their nervous system knows the truth, even if their mouth won't say it. Number 4. Guilt has a loud voice. Watch who raises theirs first. Ever noticed how some people explode at the smallest question? You ask something simple, genuinely curious, no blame in your tone, and suddenly it's like you lit a match near a gas leak. Their voice sharpens, their body tenses. They act insulted, offended, maybe even furious. And all you did was ask. That's not honesty. That's fear dressed up as outrage. Here's the truth most don't want to admit. People who have nothing to hide nothing. When someone's telling the truth, they're calm, maybe confused, maybe surprised, but they don't need to perform. They explain, they clarify, they keep it light because they know they're clean. But when someone's lying, the question itself becomes a threat. Not because it was aggressive, but because it touched a sore spot. And guilt, when touched, tends to bite. You might wonder, what if they're just emotional? That's fair. Some people are sensitive. But defensiveness is different. It's fast. It's sharp. It's not sadness. It's attack mode. It's not, you hurt me. It's, how dare you? That difference matters. Because when truth is on your side, your emotions stay balanced. But lies are built on shaky ground. And even the gentlest breeze feels like an earthquake. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Meaning, don't let someone's emotional outburst pull you into their performance. Stay calm, because that calmness, it's your power. While they're scrambling to protect a lie, your silence becomes the spotlight that exposes it. There's a woman I know, Lisa, who once lent money to a close friend. Months passed, no repayment, no update. So one day she casually asked, "Hey, did you ever get a chance to sort out that payment?" Instantly, her friend snapped, "Wow, do you really not trust me? I can't believe you'd even ask that." No explanation, no timeline, just pure offense. Lisa didn't accuse, she didn't pressure, she simply asked. But the reaction, that was the real confession. Because if someone intends to repay you, they'll tell you where things stand. If they don't, they'll try to make you feel guilty for asking. So how do you spot this red flag? Watch the timing. Do they go defensive before you even finish your question? Do they suddenly flip the script, making you the problem for daring to ask? That's not communication. That's evasion. That's emotional misdirection. And this is where you stay stoic. You don't match their tone. You don't argue. You observe. Because the louder they get, the more desperate they are to shift the focus off themselves. They want you flustered so you don't notice the cracks in their story. But when you remain centered, their overreaction becomes the very evidence they were trying to hide. At the end of the day, the truth doesn't panic when questioned. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't attack to protect itself. But a lie knows it's in danger the moment it's touched. And that's why the guilty ones are often the first to shout. Number 5. Guilt has a loud voice. Watch who raises theirs first. Ever noticed how some people explode at the smallest question? You ask something simple, genuinely curious, no blame in your tone, and suddenly it's like you lit a match near a gas leak. Their voice sharpens, their body tenses, they act insulted, offended, maybe even furious. And all you did was ask. That's not honesty, that's fear dressed up as outrage. Here's the truth most don't want to admit. People who have nothing to hide nothing. When someone's telling the truth, they're calm, maybe confused, maybe surprised, but they don't need to perform. They explain, they clarify, they keep it light because they know they're clean. But when someone's lying, the question itself becomes a threat, not because it was aggressive, but because it touched a sore spot. And guilt, when touched, tends to bite. You might wonder, what if they're just emotional? That's fair. Some people are sensitive. But defensiveness is different. It's fast. It's sharp. It's not sadness. It's attack mode. It's not, "you hurt me," it's "how dare you." That difference matters. Because when truth is on your side, your emotions stay balanced. But lies are built on shaky ground. And even the gentlest breeze feels like an earthquake. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Meaning, don't let someone's emotional outburst pull you into their performance. Stay calm, because that calmness, it's your power. While they're scrambling to protect a lie, your silence becomes the spotlight that exposes it. There's a woman I know, Lisa, who once lent money to a close friend. Months passed, no repayment, no update. So one day she casually asked, "Hey, did you ever get a chance to sort out that payment?" Instantly, her friend snapped, "Wow, do you really not trust me? I can't believe you'd even ask that." No explanation, no timeline, just pure offense. Lisa didn't accuse, she didn't pressure, she simply asked. But the reaction, that was the real confession. Because if someone intends to repay you, they'll tell you where things stand. If they don't, they'll try to make you feel guilty for asking. So how do you spot this red flag? Watch the timing. Do they go defensive before you even finish your question? Do they suddenly flip the script, making you the problem for daring to ask? That's not communication. That's evasion. That's emotional misdirection. And this is where you stay stoic. You don't match their tone. You don't argue. You observe. Because the louder they get, the more desperate they are to shift the focus off themselves. They want you flustered so you don't notice the cracks in their story. But when you remain centered, their overreaction becomes the very evidence they were trying to hide. At the end of the day, the truth doesn't panic when questioned. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't attack to protect itself. But a lie knows it's in danger the moment it's touched. And that's why the guilty ones are often the first to shout. Number 6. Too much sauce spoils the dish and the truth. Sometimes the loudest lie is hidden in too many words. You ask a simple question, and suddenly you're drowning in details. They don't just answer you, they build an entire movie around it. What they wore, what song played, who they saw, how long the red light lasted. You didn't ask for all of that, but they gave it anyway. Why? Because deep down, they don't trust their own story. So they try to dress it up, hoping you won't notice it's hollow underneath. Here's the truth. Honesty is simple. Lies need decoration. A truthful person doesn't need to sound impressive. They're just trying to tell you what happened. But liars are performers. And their favorite trick? Over-explaining. Because they think details make a story sound more believable. But ironically, those details become their undoing. The more clutter they throw at you, the more chances they have to contradict themselves later. You might wonder, but what if they're just talkative? Sure, some people are natural storytellers, but you'll feel the difference. When it's genuine, it flows. When it's a lie, it feels like they're throwing glitter on garbage. You'll notice the tension in their voice, the pauses where they scramble to remember what they just made up. It's not storytelling, it's scrambling. Seneca once said, "Anything unnecessary is a burden to the mind." That includes lies. When someone is honest, their mind is clear. When someone is lying, they're carrying too much. And that mental weight leaks out through overcompensation. They're not just giving you the facts, they're trying to sell you a full-blown commercial. I remember this guy, let's call him Jake, who once suspected a friend of lying about why he missed an important meeting. All Jake asked was, "Hey, what happened that day?" Instead of a normal answer, his friend launched into a script. "Oh man, I was on my way, but I got stuck behind this angry-looking guy in a blue truck. No, wait, red truck. And then I realized I forgot my laptop, so I had to turn around. And then, get this, my neighbor's dog ran out right in front of my car." Jake didn't even have to say anything. He just listened. And when he casually brought it up a week later, the truck changed colors again. The dog was missing, and the story crumbled. That's the thing about fake stories. They're too complex to keep straight. The truth stands still. Lies trip over their own details. So next time someone gives you too much, too fast, stop and pay attention. Are they answering your question or building a smokescreen? Are the details necessary or just noise? Ask yourself, why do they feel the need to convince me so hard? When it comes to truth, less really is more. And when it comes to lies, too much sauce spoils the dish. Because at the end of the day, real stories don't need extra seasoning. They just need to be told. And if someone's pouring on too much flavor, it's probably because they're cooking something up. Number 7. When the music doesn't match the lyrics. Listen closer. Ever heard someone say all the right things, but something about the way they said it just felt wrong? Their words told one story, but their tone whispered another. It's like listening to a love song sung in a cold, robotic voice. The lyrics say, "I care," but the music says, "I don't mean it." And deep down, you feel it, even if you can't explain why. That's the strange magic of tone. It bypasses logic and speaks straight to your gut. Because while words can be polished, scripted and rehearsed, tone is raw. It leaks the truth even when the mouth is trying to hide it. A liar can put on a confident face, choose perfect words, even smile as they speak. But the voice doesn't lie so easily. It hesitates, it cracks. It tries too hard to sound natural and ends up sounding unnatural. That's because when you're not telling the truth, your body knows, and it resists. As Epictetus once said, "He who does not trust himself cannot be trusted by others." A liar doesn't trust their own story, and that hesitation shows up in the places they can't fully control, like tone, rhythm, and expression. You might ask, but can't nervous people sound unsure too? Of course, but there's a difference between nerves and deception. Nervous truth still feels real. Deceptive tone feels hollow. You'll hear the forced laugh, the delayed reply, the overly cheerful tone that doesn't match the gravity of the moment. The more they try to cover it up, the more it shows. A friend of mine, Mia, once dealt with this firsthand. She asked someone why they bailed on plans last minute. The reply? "Oh yeah, something came up, but we'll totally reschedule soon." On paper it sounded fine, but the delivery? Office. The cheerfulness felt fake. The dragged longer than it should have. The smile didn't reach the voice. And Mia knew, right then, that the words were a cover. Sure enough, that reschedule never happened. The truth came out later, but her gut had already known. So how do you catch this red flag? Start listening with more than your ears. Hear what they mean, not just what they say. Does their tone match the message? Does it feel natural, or like it's been painted on, too perfect to be real? Compare it with how they normally speak. If someone who's usually confident suddenly sounds unsure, that's not coincidence, it's a clue. Because in the end, truth flows. It doesn't need props or rehearsals. It doesn't struggle to match tone with meaning. But deception? It's like a song out of tune. Everything looks right, but something sounds off. And once you learn to hear that, you'll never be fooled by words alone again. So remember, when the lyrics say one thing, but the music says another, trust the music. The voice doesn't lie. Not for long. Number 8. Their voice wears a mask, but it slips when you listen right. You can fake words. You can fake a smile. But you can't fake how your voice feels when you speak. That's the thing about lying. People think it's all about the words. But the real slip? It's in the sound beneath those words. The tone, the hesitation, the way the voice trembles or tightens in places that should feel soft and easy. That's where truth hides, or tries to break free. When someone's being real with you, there's a natural rhythm to their voice. It doesn't stumble. It doesn't feel like it's wearing a mask. But liars, they're walking on a mental tightrope, trying to balance a story while dragging the weight of guilt. And you can hear it in their delivery. They may say, "Of course I'm telling the truth," but there's a stiffness in the sound, a pause too long, a smile that feels printed, not felt. You might ask, but can't people just be awkward? Sure, some are, but awkward truth still carries emotional honesty. A lie, even when spoken with charm, has an emptiness in its tone, because the speaker isn't just talking to you, they're managing a performance. Seneca said, "Speech is the mirror of the soul. As a man speaks, so is he." That mirror fogs when someone's hiding something. Their words might be clear, but the tone is where the smoke rises. Because when you don't believe your own story, your voice carries the cracks. I knew someone once, let's call her Jess, who suspected her partner of lying about why they were late coming home. She asked casually, not accusing, and he replied, "Oh, yeah, I just stayed a bit longer at work. You know how it is. The words, innocent enough, but the way he said them, tight, uneasy, like someone whispering a script to themselves mid-performance. The pause before, yeah. The flat ending to, you know how it is. Jess didn't have proof, but she had tone, and a week later, she had the truth too. So how do you spot it? Listen not just to the words, but the emotional weight beneath them. Does their voice match their message, or does it feel like a smile stretched too wide? Compare it to how they usually speak. The biggest clue often isn't in what they say, it's in how it feels when they say it. Because truth doesn't need makeup, it doesn't wobble, it doesn't tremble when questioned. But a lie? It always wears a costume. And if you pay attention long enough, the mask slips. Let their voice speak, not just their words. Because when the mouth lies, the tone always tries to warn you.